Ha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantarada Kantanamustate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakopa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Zatarine. Then we go straight into the particular prayers to Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva, Sri Gaura Purnima on page 8. You probably all knows this prayer anyway. Namo Mahavadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratrise Namaha. O most munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. And then Sri Panchatattva Pranam, Panchatattva Makam Krishnam, Bhaktarupa Swarupakam, Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee, devotional incarnation, devotional manifestation, pure devotee, and devotional energy. And then Prabhupada expands on the Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by his plenary expansion, Shri Nityananda Prabhu, his incarnation, Shri Advaita Prabhu, his internal potency, Sri Gadadhar, and his marginal potency, Sri Vas Prabhu. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. Therefore, our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda. As preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, we first offer our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting this Panchatattva Maha Mantra. Then we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I don't hear everyone. I know you're on mute, but I don't see you chanting either. There are 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but these are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Mahavadanyavatar, the most magnanimous incarnation, for he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. Thus, to derive the full benefit of the chanting of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, we must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, learn the Panchatattva mantra, and then chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That will be very effective. So Prabhupada is, in that prayer, he's not saying it, but he's placing Lord Chaitanya before Krishna. And I was listening to a lecture Prabhupada gave in Hawaii in 1969. You also maybe have heard that. And he talks about how Krishna, and Joshua mentioned this in one of the prayers he was reading by Srila Prabhupada, the purports, that Krishna was instructing, you do this and surrender to me. And he said, and Prabhupada said, but people rejected that. Why are you saying surrender to you? Give up all my dharmas. I've got so many dharmas. And so, who are you? So then Krishna was thinking, how can I save these rascals? So I will come in a different form as a devotee. and I will engage them. I will attract them with my beautiful form and my beautiful dancing and chanting and this amazing philosophy. And I will engage them in the Sankirtan movement. And this way attract everyone. So he came like that. And Sri Advaitacharya, we know he, in one place, actually in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that the main reason that Lord Chaitanya came was because of Advaitacharya's petitioning him. Now, we hear there are other, now we may say, well, that's the reason he came, but what were his purposes? Now, reason and purpose, they may be synonymous, but we may consider like that. In any case, we know that in different places it says the main reason that Lord Chaitanya came was this, and the external reason, the internal reason. So I want to go through the mood of no, I'm going to take a step back. Where Prabhupada talks about, in that same lecture, he talks about, and I'm going to refer specifically to the verse. It's Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9:38. 7:9:38. Where have I got it? Right here. Yes, 7:9:38. Itam ritir yagrishi devaja sha vatarayir. I won't say the whole Sanskrit. The translation, 7th canto, 9th chapter, text number 38. In this way, my Lord, you appear in various incarnations as a human being, as an animal, as a great saint, a demigod, a fish, or a tortoise, thus maintaining the entire creation in different planetary systems, not just this earth, and killing the demoniac principles. According to the age, O my Lord, you protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you are known as Tri Yuga. There are 4 yugas, right? And here in Lord Chaitanya is called, or Krishna is called, the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. So Prabhupada said, this is the verse he was speaking about in that lecture in Hawaii in 1969. And then so he talks about how Lord Chaitanya is also called the Chana avatar, or the covered. So in one sense, obviously we know that not only is Lord Chaitanya the most recent incarnation of Krishna, but he's also, in this sense, not an incarnation. He does not assert himself. So officially he doesn't appear, and yet he does appear. So does anyone know? We say approximately 500 years ago, right? It was 18th of February, 1486. So how many years ago is that? 1486. Those are good with math. Just unmute yourself and speak out.
About 535 years?
Exactly. Till tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
535 years. How many generations would that be approximately? 7, 8, 9 maybe? Not a long time. That Lord Krishna came personally, and yet Prabhupada puts Lord Chaitanya first, and because Krishna is not as merciful, Lord Chaitanya is called the most munificent, and he's called the Patita Pavan Hari. He comes to, and as we just read, the offenses against the holy names are not considered in chanting the Panchatattva Mahamantra. So we have all hope and no excuse to not become pure devotees in this lifetime. Whoa. So Advaitacharya, well, first I want to go in, what are some of the specific ways, or how was Lord Chaitanya announced, heralded before he came? Here we've just read one verse from the 7th canto. He's predicted. Also in the 11th canto, there's that famous verse, Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishna. And that's quoted in the same purport of that Bhagavatam verse. Sangoparshas, Parshadam, Parshadam. Yajantihi Yai Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasaha. In Kali Yuga, intelligent men worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was always accompanied by his associates, such as Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, and Srivas. The entire Krishna consciousness movement is based on the principles of the Sankirtan movement. I'll repeat that. The entire Krishna consciousness movement is based on the principles of the Sankirtan movement, inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, one who tries to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of the Sankirtan movement knows everything perfectly. I'll repeat that as well. Therefore, one who tries to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of the Sankirtan movement knows everything perfectly. He is Sumedas, a person with substantial intelligence. So very significant statements and very indicative, very instructive for us about how Sankirtan is not only important, it is primary. It is the Yuga Dharma, and it is our most important activity. Whether we engage directly, like on Harinam or book distribution, or we support it, or we share it with other people, or we help our families to understand Krishna and make our homes Krishna conscious. These are all ways that we spread the Sankirtan movement, and we invite other people. We arrange programs. We participate in programs that are attractive, chanting, dancing, and feasting. In Whangarai, where I go very often to go with Buddhimanta Prabhu and all the wonderful devotees up there. Buddhi originally established his Wednesday evening program, which they have every week, starting at 5:30, as mainly a kirtan, a stand-up kirtan program. And gradually it became a little changed. And I've also noticed internationally that many kirtans now are really sit-down kirtans. And that's wonderful. But I find that I can engage my mind, when I can engage my body. Prabhupada said dancing. All kinds of kirtan are wonderful, but Prabhupada specifically said dancing. It is 1/3 of our program, chanting, dancing, and feasting. So we find generally, especially there in Whangarai, we're personally experiencing, when we're all dancing from the beginning of the kirtan, from the beginning of the program, and getting into the kirtan and getting very active, all the senses are engaged. The mind is much more engaged because the body is also engaged, much easier like that. And then people coming by, because we have a storefront there at the Food for Life Center. People come by, and they hear the music, they may come in, and you know how it is on Harinam, it's the same. Dancing, it's very attractive. So that's very important. So we found that difference, and we're focusing on that, and it's so wonderful to remember and revive this basic instructions of Prabhupada, the basic indications that are so foundational and essential for carrying on, expanding, and cooperating together to do that. So I have a list of some of the other predictions and descriptions of Lord Chaitanya. Let's see, where are we? There are actually 24 different scriptures that mention Lord Chaitanya before he came. And I'm going to mention a few of the prominent ones here. I've already mentioned two, which is that seventh canto one, and then the 11th canto one, which Ambrish Prabhu has just put up. In the Vishnu Sahasra Nam Stotra from Mahabharata, he's mentioned. Some of his bodily features are mentioned. He has a golden complexion. He has the appearance of molten gold. He's exquisitely beautiful. The Lord's body is smeared with sandalwood pulp. And some of his activities are also described in that Vishnu Sahasranam Sutra. He accepts the renounced order of life. He is fully sense-controlled or equipoised. He is completely peaceful. He is rigidly fixed in the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna. Krishna Varnam, Krishna's name is always on his lips. He is the highest abode of devotion and peace. He silences the impersonalist philosophers, as we heard Srila Prabhu relating that extraordinary pastime of Lord Chaitanya defeating. He defeated him by listening, which is quite extraordinary. Normally we're told, don't listen to Mayavad philosophy. Do not listen. Otherwise, even if you hear it, your spiritual life will be doomed. What to speak of follow it. And yet Lord Chaitanya was listening to a full-blown Mayavadi for 7 days and didn't say a word. And that's Lord Chaitanya's potency. We can't imitate that. Otherwise, we're finished. If we imitate the great, then it's like trying to imitate Lord Shiva by drinking an ocean of poison or taking ganja or smoking drugs. In the Garuda Purana, it says, in the first part of Kali Yuga, I'm just reading the English, I will appear, Krishna says, I will appear in my complete spiritual form in Mayapur, Navadvip, and become the son of Shachi. And also in that same Purana, in the first part of Kali Yuga, the Supreme Lord in the golden complexion will become the husband of Lakshmi. Then he will become a sannyasi and reside near Lord Jagannath. And in the Shringa Purana, it says the Supreme Lord who assumed the form of a half man, half lion in the Satya Yuga to cure a dreadful disease that had devastated the Daityas, and who, appearing as Ram, conquered the 10-headed Ravana in the Treta Yuga, and who removed the burden of the earth in the Dwapara Yuga and protected the cowherd man of Rajabhumi, will be the Lord by name Chaitanya in the Kali Yuga. He will have a golden form and he will take pleasure in chanting the Lord's holy names. So there's several more, including the Padma Purana, Narada Purana, Bhavisha Purana, Vayu Purana, Matsya Purana, the Skanda Purana, and more. There are many, many to establish not only who Lord Chaitanya is, that he's Krishna, but what he comes to do. So that it's very more than authoritative. And a lot of this is mentioned directly in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you can see Krishnadas Kaviraj Maharaj Goswami mentions many of these. So then I wanted to ask everyone to consider, what is the most significant instruction or teaching or example for you of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And I'm not asking you to say what you think is the most important instruction generally, and it may coincide, but what for you, at your level and your realization and your inspiration, what is the most important instruction or teaching or aspect of Lord Chaitanya in your life now? So take a moment to consider. If chat worked, if that wasn't disabled, we would do it like that. But I think what I'll do is just let anyone who'd like to speak spontaneously, if their thought or realization or inspiration about that, to unmute themselves and speak it out, please. What is the most?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, please.
The one thing I like, which actually touched my heart, is the simplicity of devotional service. Just by chanting the name, we can achieve, means that is the most important thing, and that is a very simple process. That's what actually attracted me.
Perfect. Thank you. Who else would like to share?
For me, it is how Lord Chaitanya appeared to distribute love of Godhead freely, to all the patitas of this world. And at the same time, Lord Chaitanya were very strict about following the principles.
Yes.
As we understand from Haridas Thakur's example, Chota Haridas. So for me, these two extremes are very powerful.
Yes.
That one can be distributing easily, but not cheaply.
Yes.
What I like about it.
They almost seem extremes, but they go together perfectly, don't they? Which is expanding our attempt to understand the Supreme Lord, how he can be distributing pure love of Krishna and be so strict. And then we can think of the Bhagavad Gita verse, the regulative principles of freedom. By following, being very strict and regular, we become completely free and fully engaged and fully purified. That's another aspect. Thank you. Who else? What is the most important or inspiring aspect of Lord Chaitanya's teachings or life? Just unmute yourself and go ahead. Yes, Mother Madhuri.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Speak up a little louder.
In this this Kali Yuga, there are so many different religions that are being, so-called religions that are being offered, but none of them can tell you much about who is God. They don't tell us, they don't give us a chance to develop any love of God because they don't know about God. So Lord Chaitanya was the only one who could really tell us how we could learn to love God. That's the important thing. It's the only religion that can do that. Hare Krishna.
Perfect. Yes, Prabhupada emphasizes again and again that Lord Chaitanya came to give us this perfect philosophy to understand that everything is simultaneously, inconceivably the same and different from God. That's an overarching, but it includes all other philosophies, at least valid philosophies. So, Mari, thank you. Lord Chaitanya is making it possible to understand the absolute truth, even in this Kali Yuga. Anyone else? Oliver, and Whangarai, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for your talks, Prabhu.
And little Oliver's with you? Nimai is with you?
He's crawling around, causing trouble. I'm keeping an eye on him. For me, it's because Lord Chaitanya came so recently, as you said before, and in the hidden or incarnation, it's a lot more relatable for us where we're at, or for me, where my consciousness is at. Even though I love Bhagavatam, it's hard to relate to things in the Bhagavatam because, we have no experience, but we can practically experience, like you said before, dancing and chanting, and we get the results. So,
it's inconceivable how, like Avinash was saying, so simple, and yet it's complete. We continue with it strictly, seriously, and facing all and dealing with all the anarthas and the challenges, and we constantly advance and get more and more and more without end.
Yes,
Incredible.
And without having to be there is the strict aspect and also not at the same time. It's so simple, but it's so effective. So, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So simultaneously strict and soft. The offenses aren't considered. Not that we shouldn't avoid offenses, but by chanting the Panchatattva mantra, we are enabled to go further in spite of our offenses, as long as we continue to seriously try to avoid them. Lord Chaitanya makes it easy, therefore most munificent, most kind. For me, there's so many things, but I think the Trinadapi Sunichana verse, because Lord Chaitanya says one can chant the holy name in such and such way. And when I think of that, it hits me in the face in a sense that I have so far to go, and yet he promises that if I take on this mood, develop this mood, which is my real mood, it's not my second nature now, but to become humble, more and tolerant, and offer respect to others without expecting any for myself. For me, it's so that one verse is so essential and helpful for me. It's very challenging, and it's helps me understand where I'm meant to go, where I can go, where I should go, and what I can work on. So we'll go ahead. Anyone can share a little later if they want, but we have a lot to cover. So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Sorry.
Yes, Manaji, please.
So for me, there's two things. One thing is Mahavadanyaya. So it's the most munificent incarnation. And, I really like that where it says Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatara. And, where in the translation, it said that because I'm the most fallen, my claim is first. So I can kind of resonate to that. And I feel that there is hope there, just because Lord Chaitanya's mercy is just like an ocean. And the second thing is the instruction, Jare Dekho Tare Kaho Krishna Upadesh. So preaching of Krishna's message.
Yeah.
Those two things
Yes.
really, really strike to me. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, that we have great hope because Lord Chaitanya came specifically for the most fallen. He came for the Jagas and Madhas,
Yes.
Lord Nityananda. And we might not be as fallen as they were. Maybe we are, but we may think ourselves like that. But it doesn't matter. You can't be more fallen. You can't be too fallen. So no excuses.
Yes.
Even you actually feel, and genuinely you may, that I'm the most fallen. That's okay. Then your claim is first. But I will say mine is before you. So thank you, Mataji. Perfect. So many perfect points all together, and many, many more. So I wanted to go into, because we know that Krishna said he would come as Lord Chaitanya because he not only wanted to attract the living beings and engage them in Sankirtan, but he wanted to teach us how to become devotees by his own example, by his own doing it. And Prabhupada says, practice is better than precept. If you can say, well, what your behavior is more than important philosophy, at that point, with that statement, Prabhupada saying, yes, your behavior is more important. And we know from different verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita that no one can preach Krishna consciousness or spread Krishna consciousness unless he or she is practicing it himself or herself. Does that mean we have to become pure devotees to preach? No. Prabhupada wants us to do both together. Advance by preaching, and preaching, then have realization of how we need more to advance. And there's one particular quote, I think it's from a lecture. Prabhupada said, when you become an expert preacher, then you will be able to chant without offense. There's only one in all of Prabhupada's teachings that I know of. When you become an expert preacher, then you will be able to chant without offense. Quite extraordinary. It really struck me, and I've always remembered it. So it's stressing the quality of our ability to attract people, understand them where they're at by listening, really listening to them, and then discovering ways to engage them according to their level, not where I think they should be, but go to their level. We don't compromise, but we empathize with them through Shravanam, listening spiritually to another person who may have just the tiniest spark. So many instructions and indications how to preach. So when the better we become at helping people to come to Krishna, becoming links, gurus in that way, the more we advance. Go hand in hand, cannot separate them. So following in the 8th chapter of the Madhya-lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's the most extraordinary example of Lord Chaitanya teaching with the discussions and the exchange with Sri Ramananda Roy. Lord Chaitanya takes the position of a student. He treats Sri Ramananda Roy like his guru. And I want to go through those verses because it's absolutely extraordinary. Probably many, if not all of you have read that, but it's always so inspiring for me. And because I've been studying that with my CC group discussion group online monthly, we just finished that chapter, even more extraordinary realizations. So let's see where we have this. That's chapter Madhya-lila, chapter 8. Let's see. Starting with verse 120. Madhya-lila, chapter 8, text 120. I'll just read the first Bengali and then go through the English translations with some purports and without others. Kripakarye tattva kahata amare tomavina keha iha nirupite nare. Lord Chaitanya speaks to Ramananda Roy. Now you may know that Ramananda Roy was engaged in government service. He was considered a Sudra in that regard. We also know that Sri Ramananda Roy is who in Raj-lila? He's Vishaka Gopi. He's the prominent, or along with Lalita, the most prominent Gopi servant of Radha and Krishna. So in the beginning of this chapter, it's described how when Lord Chaitanya saw Ramananda Roy, he came through with many ministers and Brahmins, and when Lord Chaitanya saw him, he immediately started running towards Ramananda Roy, but in his mind. He could not, Krishna could not avoid rushing to be with his most dearly beloved Gopi, Vishaka. Now, in this manifestation, he's not Vishaka, he's Ramananda Roy. But, and there's the whole 119 verses before this describing the buildup. And Lord Chaitanya here now asked Ramananda Roy, kindly explain all these truths to me, but for yourself, no one can do so. Sri Ramananda Roy replied, I do not know anything about this, especially the higher leelas of Krishna and the gopis. I simply vibrate the sound you make me speak. And in the beginning of the chapter, there's an extraordinary explanation. The first verse is described that Lord Chaitanya is the ocean of transcendental knowledge and qualities. And yet he arranged for the cloud, in this case, Sri Ramananda Roy, to take all those bring those qualities up into himself, and then arrange for that cloud to shower those transcendental qualities and all that knowledge back on the ocean. So that's a metaphor for what's happening here. Lord Chaitanya is the ocean of all knowledge and good spiritual qualities, and he is the cloud of Ramananda Roy has taken on or learned and become filled with these qualities, and then he's raining them back down as the teacher, so to speak, upon the disciple. So Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy are playing this pastime. And Lord Ramananda Roy continues, I simply repeat like a parrot whatever instructions you have given me. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Who can understand your dramatic performances? And you may know that when Lord Chaitanya asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, after Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had realized who Lord Chaitanya was, he surrendered, became a devotee, and Lord Chaitanya asked him to talk about the higher level truths of Radha Krishna Lila and Rasa Lila and that. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, I don't know about those things, but there's someone who does. And that's Sri Ramananda Roy. So you must go and meet him. And that's another reason why Lord Chaitanya went. And he specifically went to that area because he knew Ramananda Roy would come by and they would meet. And they spent, I don't know, it was a week or 10 days together, just sharing the progressive levels of Krishna consciousness and the levels of service. And this is like the culmination. Ramananda Roy continues, you inspire me within the heart and make me speak with the tongue. I do not know whether I'm speaking well or badly. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am a Mayavadi in the renounced order of life, and I do not even know what transcendental loving service to the Lord is. I simply float in the ocean of Mayavad philosophy. Please don't understand that, but that Lord Chaitanya is taking the extremely humble position, as if he's not qualified even to hear or understand. Due to the association of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, my mind has been enlightened. Therefore, I have asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya about the truths of transcendental loving service to Krishna. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told me, I do not actually know about the topics of Lord Krishna. They are all known only to Ramananda Roy, but he is not present here. He says, they're all known only to Ramananda Roy. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, after hearing about your glories, I have come to your place. Speaking to Ramananda Roy. But you're offering me words of praise out of respect for a sannyasi, one in the renounced order of life. And then Lord Chaitanya speaks probably one of the most significant verses ever. Kiba vipra, kiba nyasi, shudya kene nai, ye Krishna tattva veda, say Guru Hoy. Whether one is a Brahmin, a sannyasi, or a Shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. Thank you, Amrish, for putting that up. And there's a long, long purport. I'm just going to read the first paragraph or part of it. Prabhupada says, this verse is very important to the Krishna consciousness movement. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhashya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that one should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born a Brahmin and was situated in the topmost spiritual order as a sannyasi, it was improper for him to receive instruction from Srila Ramananda Roy, who belonged to the Shudra caste. To clarify this matter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Ramananda Roy that knowledge of Krishna consciousness is more important than caste. In the system of Varnashram Dharma, there are various duties for the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Actually, the Brahmin is supposed to be the spiritual master of all other Varnas or sects. But as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, everyone is capable of becoming a spiritual master because knowledge and Krishna consciousness is on the platform of the spirit soul. So simple. Prabhupada just clarifies everything. To spread Krishna consciousness, one need only be cognizant of the science of the spirit soul. So what does that mean? We understand Bhagavad Gita better and better, and we can share Krishna consciousness. Of course, there's so much more, but that's the foundation. It does not matter whether one is a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Sannyas, Grihastha, or whatever. If one simply understands this science, he can become a spiritual master. Hare Krishna. Very long purport. If we had time, we would go through. Next verse. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, please do not try to cheat me, thinking of me as a learned sannyasi. Please satisfy my mind by just describing the truth of Radha and Krishna. Get on with it. Don't cheat me. What a rasa. Sri Ramananda Roy was a great devotee of the Lord and a lover of God. And although his mind could not be covered by Krishna's illusory energy, and although he could understand the mind of the Lord, which was very strong and intense, Ramananda's mind became a little agitated. Sri Ramananda Roy said, I am just a dancing puppet and you pull the strings. Whichever way you make me dance, I will dance. And what did Prabhupada say? Make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. Whatever way you make me dance, I will dance. My dear Lord, my tongue is just like a stringed instrument, and you are its player. Therefore, I simply vibrate whatever arises in your mind. Beyond comprehension. Ramananda Roy then began to speak on Krishna Tattva. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said. He is personally the original Godhead, the source of all incarnations, and the cause of all causes. Then he went further and further into the philosophy, almost unlimitedly. So, there are many examples of how Lord Chaitanya exemplified, taught us by his own personal example, how to become devotees. This is one of the most extraordinary ones for me. And there's much, much more, of course. But let's open it up for questions or comments or realizations or doubts or whatever. Because we could go on forever. And yet the sadhu sangha of hearing each other's realizations and questions and churning that, Prabhupada stressed very, very much. So if you have any question or comment or inspiration or realization or doubt, just unmute yourself and please feel free. Even if I can't answer, someone else probably can. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada can answer everything.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I didn't understand that part in Srimad Bhagavatam where it was written that Krishna only appears in the 3 yogas. Why is Lord Chaitanya not considered as an incarnation in that verse?
Why is he considered what? Sorry.
Why is it that in that verse it was written that Krishna only appears in 3 yogas, and that's why he's known as 3 yogi? I don't remember the term, but why is that?
Yes, he's called Tri Yuga. It's not that Lord Chaitanya isn't Krishna and that he didn't appear, but it's being stressed that Lord Chaitanya came as a devotee, and he avoided being identified as the Supreme Lord because, for one reason, in Kali Yuga, everyone wants to claim to be great, ultimately God. So if Advaitacharya or he or any of the Panchatattva took that position, they felt that they would encourage people to follow that Mayavadi tendency. So he came specifically as a devotee. And many times when he was, or as far as I know, maybe always, when he was glorified as the Supreme Lord, you know what he would do? He would cover his ears and run away. So Lord Chaitanya came, he didn't want to be identified as Krishna. So that's part of the explanation. And maybe someone else can say something more, but that's part. He's called the Chana avatar, or the covered incarnation. So that's why he's called Triyuga. That's part of my understanding. There's probably much more. What do you think? Does that help?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I had a question. Prabhu, in like these sages and everybody, like 500 years back, they all knew that this is Kali Yuga, right? They all knew that they were a part of Kali Yuga. And in the revealed scriptures, it is written that, in the Kali Yuga, like in the Bhagavatam, which is 5,000 years old, it is written that in the Kali Yuga, you will be delivered by chanting the holy names. When these people were so learned, they read all the Vedanta and everything, why weren't they chanting? When they knew that, Kali Yuga, the means of deliverance is chanting. So why weren't they doing that when they were so learned? So if you can please answer that. Thank you.
Yes, very good question. I think, yes, that people were so learned and wise, they must have known that this is Kali Yuga and it's degraded, and the way of deliverance is to chant the holy name. And it's described how Advaita tribe, he was in Navadvip. It was considered the seat of learning. And yet he saw that people were all engaged in sinful activity, impiously or piously. People were very virtuous, but they weren't in the mood. So it's hard. I mean, it's Kali Yuga. Lord Krishna had disappeared about 5,000 years before. So it had been quite some time. And we know that Krishna consciousness had been lost. So to know something in some ways doesn't make any difference. I may know there are Mayavadis who can recite Bhagavad Gita by heart, forwards and backwards, and they don't understand, they don't get that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. There was a very famous diplomat, a politician, Dr. Radhakrishna. Dr. Radhakrishna.
Radhakrishna.
Yeah. And he had his own version of Bhagavad Gita. And he explained Manmanabha. When Krishna says, think of me, worship me and become my devotee, he said, it's not Krishna we're meant to think of. It's the spiritual divine within. So the pride and the arrogance, which is a large part of the influence, or which are some of the influential factors, degrading factors in Kali Yuga, that people can have knowledge externally. And as Prabhupada is saying, stressing in these verses, which is if one knows the science, what does that mean? That I understand how Krishna lives in my life, how Krishna is everything, and I have no disconnection from Krishna. So one can know philosophy, but not have any idea that everything I do, even my breathing, depends on Krishna. That he is my Lord, he is my best friend, he is the enjoyer, the proprietor, the controller, and my best friend. So I don't know if that helps, but being philosophically astute is often a disqualification. Because I know scripture so well, I may become proud. And that pride means maya aparita jnana. That the wisdom is stolen away by maya because of my pride. Therefore, Trinada Pisujina, that Lord Chaitanya came. And Advaita Acharya said, my Lord, I cannot do anything. I cannot save these people. You must come yourself. And therefore, Lord Krishna said, yes, I will come. I will come, and I will attract the people, and I will give them simple activity. I will show them. Lord Chaitanya defeated the greatest scholars of the time. They had Prakashananda Saraswati, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. They were the greatest, most respected scholars, and yet they did not know how to surrender to Krishna. They did not surrender, even if they knew how. They did not surrender. These are perfect examples. So I don't. That's not full explanation, but maybe that helps a little bit. The combined potency of Kali Yuga and those who are born in Kali Yuga, they desire to be in that condition. So it's like a facility to dive into the Mayavada philosophy and be great materially and enjoy like anything. What do you think?
Yeah, Prabhuji, that helps a lot.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Atmananda.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shital.
Thank you very much for your very nice class. And yeah, actually there is nice discussion and question and answer as well. So I was thinking about this point. Actually, one of the things that initially attracted me about Lord Chaitanya, where he actually said that actually when he used to chant and dance, so basically he actually break the stereotype of this actually the Vedantist and the scholars at that time. And he said that his spiritual master instructed him that actually he actually called himself he's a fool, and the only way that I can be delivered is to actually chant the holy name very loudly. So that was actually really attracted me, because initially I think this Krishna conscious process, for actually the newbies, when we start out, actually when we see the devotees, they wake up very early in the morning, they do the actually Mangalarti, they have to chant the 16 rounds, and all this devotional service is quite a daunting process in this Kali Yuga. It's not easy. You are swimming across the stream. So initially when I heard, I used to think like that, there is no way I can able to follow all this. But I said, okay. But when I heard this instruction, then I said, oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually Krishna himself. He is saying that he is a fool, and his only way to do that is to just chant the holy name very loudly. And initially that's how I started, just chant the name very loudly, and that's actually it's really attracted him, and that's why he's called Padita Pavana. He made this process very simple, because he's actually Lord himself. He know how he's going to be. They may have very little intelligence, or even attraction. So he made it so simple that actually he attracted even most fallen soul like me. So many they become devotees. So that's what really attracted me about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as Amrish Prabhu said, at the same time, he set himself as a great devotee. His example, even he's a supreme Lord, whenever he actually requested to speak on the philosophy, he actually rejected, saying that I don't know anything. So actually, it gives you the hints that how you can become humble, amanina manadena, kirtaniya sadahari, So he actually implemented that instruction and actually show us by his example, how we should actually become a good devotee. And that's why actually that's really attracted me. And even he claimed himself to be fool. Srila Prabhupada says that fool is not revealed until he opens his mouth. But and we know that actually that's very true. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he claimed himself to be a fool, as you shared very nice realization about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and all that. When he spoke, they accepted him to be actually Supreme Personality. So it was really actually, the way he actually, set example that how to become ideal devotee. It's only actually Lord can do that. So that's really attracted me. So that is my realization.
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Lord Chaitanya is the perfect teacher. He showed perfectly how to surrender, and so when he calls himself a fool, we know he's not a fool, but he he's living and he's behaving in that way for our sake, like you're saying. And that Trinadapi verse is so essential. Prabhupada, I don't know, maybe it's Lord Chaitanya. Was it Lord Chaitanya said you should string that verse on a thread and hang it around your neck? One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others without expecting any in return. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So Lord Chaitanya manifested, exemplified that mood to show us, and also he was constantly chanting and preaching Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, so he made something impossible simple. At the same time, as we take it more and more seriously, we realize the difficulty is in here. It's only difficult or apparently impossible because I have so many excuses or so much stubbornness or rebelliousness or attachment or doubts or whatever. And then it gets, in one sense, it gets more difficult because the process itself is very simple. But when we're praying to Krishna, please engage me in your service, what does he do? He shows us what is in the way of serving him. He shows us the anarthas, and we have to, and as we advance, we take those more seriously. We don't avoid them or repress them or deny them or just, because Krishna says, he's the perfect counselor, coach, psychiatrist. What will repression accomplish? So we take them, and with his help, we dovetail them, we purify them, and we let them become spiritual. That's a very simplified version, but simultaneously difficult and simple. And thank you. What do you think, Shita?
Yeah, Prabhuji, it's very nicely explained, and yes, so true. Means, yeah, actually, the way he presented this actually Krishna conscious movement is really important. Actually, it gives a hope to everyone. So, everyone can become a devotee. Even, you don't have to be really scholar or intelligent.
Yes.
All you need is sincerity. Because, yeah, I was listening to this actually Christian philosophy where actually the discussion was on the point of how we can have a relationship with God. And the Christian philosophy, the way they presented, because God was present on earth, and because actually the people on the at that time, they break many of his actually set rules, or they call it covenants, and that's why he actually left this place, and that's why he actually sent his messenger. But actually, it's quite very contradictory. Actually what we studied in actually in Krishna conscious philosophy, where actually Lord Chaitanya is making it actually very easier for to actually follow and have association with the God. So yeah, it makes it very easy, and yeah, I think it gives hope to everyone. I think it's easiest process given in this Kali Yuga. Yeah.
Lord Chaitanya came to unite all different divisions or religions together under the one banner of the chanting of the holy names. So thank you all very much. We've gone over a little over time. I'm sure there's much more. It's endless. But let us now offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees and can fulfill the desires of everyone, and who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatryascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. I wish you all a most blessed and auspicious day tomorrow on his Transcendental Appearance Day. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Atmananda Prabhu, for a nice class and realizations, and for answering questions as well. And it is a good start for us as we are meditating upon the appearance of Lord Chaitanya tomorrow, who are in New Zealand. And for those who are in India, you're already celebrating now today. Okay, thank you very much. And especially for us, the team, we had a discussion yesterday as well amongst our group, the Sangha, and today also. So we're hoping that this Gaura Purnima festival would be a very special one for us, with deep realization, and we continue like this. And that will help us to understand Lord Chaitanya. So thank you very much, Atmananda Prabhu, and thank you very much for all the wonderful devotees. Now we'll conclude with one prayer, which Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj had instructed us to do. So small children does this 3-minute prayer. You're more than happy to participate. If you want to leave, no problem at all. Thank you very much for your kind association. So I think today Shubhadra is ready for doing this. Sanjay Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. Hare Krishna, Shubhadra Devi.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Please lead now. Thank you.
Start.
Maharaj, Maharaj,
George.
please hear us.
Maharaj, Maharaj, please hear us.
We have learned some real good stuff.
We have learned some real good stuff.
Maharaj, we have learned one thing.
Maharaj, we have learned one thing.
And today for you we will sing.
And today for you we will sing.
If our room is clean,
If our room is clean,
then our mind is clean.
then our mind is clean.
If our mind is clean,
If our mind is clean,
we can do anything.
we can do anything.
If our room is dirty,
If our room is dirty,
then so are we.
then so are we.
If we are dirty,
And if we are dirty,
we're not happy.
we're not happy.
Wasting time
Wasting time
is the greatest crime.
is a greatest crime.
Because wasted time
Because wasted time
means a wasted mind.
means a wasted mind.
So best is your time
So best use your time
when you're in your prime.
when you're in your prime,
In your whole life,
and your whole life
will be sublime.
will be sublime. So
If your wealth is gone,
if your wealth is gone,
then there's nothing wrong.
then is nothing wrong.
If your wealth is
No,
gone,
if your health,
if your health is gone,
if your health is gone,
that's a different song.
that's a different song.
But if your character died,
But if your character dies,
then the world will cry.
then the world will cry.
Only saintly behavior.
Only saintly behavior.
That's a humanity thrive.
Let humanity thrive.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
We must always remember Krishna
We must always remember
and
Krishna
never forget him too.
and never forget him too.
But how are we to practice this with so many things to do?
But how are we to practice this with so many things to do?
That is the greatest question.
That is the greatest question.
And here's the greatest clue.
And here's the greatest clue.
Because
You
you
must
must learn to work so nicely that Krishna remembers you.
You must learn to work so nicely that Krishna remembers you.
So listen very closely.
So listen very closely
And make your thinking sharp.
and make your thinking sharp.
But how are we to practice this with so many things to do?
Let's learn how we can
Let's learn.
Learn how we can live and work so Krishna won't depart.
Let's learn to Krishna won't depart.
If something due tomorrow,
If something's due tomorrow,
finish it today.
finish it today.
Whatever's due today,
And whatever's due today,
do now, don't delay.
Do it now, don't delay.
Your friends might be lazy.
Your friends might be lazy
Or doing bad things.
or doing bad things.
But you think again.
But you think again.
Don't follow them.
Don't follow them.
You will win in the end.
You will win in the end.
Whatever work we're given.
Whatever work we're given,
We do our very best.
we do our very best.
We only live with what we need and give Krishna the rest.
We only live with what we need and give Krishna the rest.
This is how to live, to work and to play. If you learn this way, you'll see Krishna every day.
This is how to live, to work and to play. You learn this way, you will see Krishna every day.
When our time is up, you'll take yourself above. You'll sing and dance with him with a heart full of love.
So when our time is up, please take us up above. We sing and dance with him with a heart full of love.
To chant Krishna's name, his glories and his fame. He's the only in this world who can ever become sane.
So chant Krishna's name, his glory and his fame. He's the only way this world will ever become sane.
Now please ask this greatest question.
Now please ask this greatest question
And find this greatest clue.
and find this greatest clue.
You can only remember
You
Krishna
can only remember Krishna
if Krishna remembers you.
if Krishna remembers you.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai.
Jai Holiness Srila Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai God Chandra Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Gaura Purnima Mahotsav ki Jai. Atmananda Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Jai Srila Prabhu ki Jai.
Jai.
Koti Vaishnava ki Jai. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much. And Madhuri Mataji, thank you very much to you as well for participating. And so also Bhakti Marg Mataji, please convey to her too. Oli, nice to see you, Oli. Hare Krishna. And all your wonderful devotees. Very well. Hare Krishna. Have blissful Lord Chaitanya appearance day tomorrow. Gaura Purnima tomorrow. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.